Hello, witches. Hello, witches. Let's talk about hexing. It's a topic that I think comes up a lot, especially with new witches, where there are a lot of different ideas and perceptions and beliefs and opinions on hexing. And I thought rather than getting into those, that I would talk about my first hexes. Hexes that I've in my life, I've been a practicing witch for over 30 years. I have done exactly 3 hexes in my entire life, and 2 of them were politically motivated. One was personally motivated. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about the first hex that I ever cast. It was after the election of Trump the first time, and I, like a lot of other people, were really upset. And were fast forward to COVID, to George Floyd, to other people who were being hurt by Trump's administration, and I was feeling very upset, and I was feeling very vulnerable, but also powerless. And one of the things that I think that we don't talk about enough in Magick is when we're feeling powerless, that's when we should turn to our magic. Like, magic is the tool for the oppressed, for changing things, and for enacting change. And I think we often don't view it as a tool for that, especially for our own emotional feelings. Like, we will turn our attention outward and our magic outward, and we don't consider what our inner landscape needs magically. So when I did this first hex, I was very upset. I remember standing in the backyard. We had a fire pit at the house we were staying at, and I had earlier that day come across the remnants of a wasp's nest, and I took that as a sign from the universe of saying, hey, you have all these big emotions. Let's do something about it. So, this is about, 5 years ago. I'm 5, 6 years ago. I'm upset. I've never done a hex before, and I just did the thing that I don't think that people should do, which is I just acted out instead of taking some time to center and ground and take those emotions and all those messy emotions that are all over and around and focus them. So it was a very impromptu hex in the backyard, speaking my anger and my rage against the people who had voted for Trump, voted him into office. And I sent out, I poured all that anger and upset and vitriol into this hornet's nest, and then burned it with the intention that those people who had voted for him would have no peace, would never know peace, would always feel the sting of regret and remorse over their actions. Now, was this an effective hex? Most likely not. I mean, depending on what definition we use for effective. Did it help me feel like I was doing something and help me kind of transmute some of those overwhelming emotions into action that gave me a release, so that then I could focus on concrete actions I could take in the mundane to help, rather to help those who are being hurt by that administration? Yes. And sometimes I think that hexing does that. It gives us that relief and that release, where we can pour emotions that might not be helpful to us. They might be toxic. And the way we deal with that with the hex can help alleviate some of that. But this, if I meant to actively hurt the people who voted for Trump, or that they felt uh, any kind of attack on their conscience, I think we all know the answer to that. I think when we're hexing, the first lesson to pull from this is that the hexing was less for other people and more for myself. And so doing something like that for myself or for yourself, I think is a valid reason to hex. But the second was that it was just too big. It was too unfocused. My intention was there, but it was just all over the place. We're not going to uh, affect large groups like that on our own. Now we get a bunch of people together and then also um, pair it with mundane work that we're working for it. Yes, we can see change that way. But one person just kind of standing around a fire being like, fuck you, to the universe, not as effective. But did it make me feel better? Yes. And it helped me just kind of siphon off some of that rage that I was feeling. Fast forward about 6 months or so, I did my second hex, and this one was personal. We're in the middle, it's back in 2020, we're in the middle of the pandemic. At the time, we were living with two people in the the house that we were in, our family, and then a couple that were at the time friends. They were just not taking the pandemic seriously, to the point where the woman of the couple took on a job that in an office that was anti-mask and didn't tell us. So we're living with someone who is going out unmasked and coming home. And if it had just been myself and my husband, that's one thing. But we had two young children with us at the time. And that's made us very upset. And what happened is they then decided they did not like the fact that we were, validly concerned about this behavior, and decided that they were going to break their lease and just move out and leave us on the lease for this house. And, ultimately it worked out for the best, because that friendship was broken and there's no point in living in a house with people that you have animosity with. But they were taking their time moving out, and they were continuing to put us at risk because she was still going to work. And so I wanted not only to speed them up, but I wanted them to have some consequences to what to being what I thought were shitty actions and being shitty people to us. And so this time I was much more calculated. I put together, powders to get them moving. Got my black pepper, my cayenne pepper, and my white pepper, and my red pepper together, and made a pepper that I would spread around their vehicles to kind of hotfoot them and get them moving and get them out of the house. But I also went and made a curse pouch. I got out the black candles and the black fabric and the black thread, and I took my lint roller and snuck into their office and lint rolled on their chairs to pick up hairs so I'd have tag locks. And I poured all of my frustration and my anger into this package, where it was, I want you to face consequences for your actions, and poured it in there. And then I slipped the package, when it was done, I slipped it into one of their boxes. I don't know if they ever found it, but did I feel better after doing it? Heck yeah, I did. they moved within a day or two after all of that. And so this is, again, where you're doing something to make yourself feel better, make yourself feel like you have some power, that you aren't as powerless, but also bringing in consequences to them. I have not kept up with them. I don't know where they're at or what they're doing now, because once I did the curse, I was done. I washed my hands of them. A curse can, or a hex can be a way of putting an end, a chapter end on a story between you and somebody else. So what I'm getting at is, I don't think that hexing is wrong. I think that it is a tool in our toolbox. I do think that sometimes people don't, they don't open up to other options. And so if you don't diversify your magical tools, that old saying of if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, you may have your first instinct is to curse. There are times when I haven't cursed. I have an abusive ex-husband who was abusive to me and our daughter, and I have never cursed him, mostly because I know that there are still entanglements between our daughter and him, and I don't want to have there be blowback on her. The most that I have ever done is a freezer spell on him. Eventually, we need to do a cord cutting, but we aren't at a position yet where we can do that. And so until we can do that, I take a hands-off approach. I don't, now that she is over 18, we haven't had any contact with him for a few years, and that's been glorious, to be honest. But I've gotten to the point with a lot of therapy and the decision to live my life for myself and not for others, that I don't feel the need to curse him. Because in my opinion, he's a pretty miserable person to begin with. So him living as himself is curse enough. Um, so you may have seen the last curse that I've done. You may have seen, I posted on my Instagram and I posted here on YouTube, was this curse against ICE, in which I targeted ICE's funding. And I think that um, I wasn't the only one who did that. A lot of other people were targeting ICE with their curses, and I think that it's been effective, because we've seen that there still has not been funding for ICE, additional funding for ICE. But I want this to, if you take anything from that, the idea that you don't have to curse a person. You can curse institutions. You can curse structures. You can curse ideas. You can curse emotions and feelings. You can turn all of that energy into against someone who is not a physical person, especially in America, where we've had this idea that corporations are people thanks to Citizens United. Cursing a corporation is completely fair game. And I don't want people to think that they're limited to, oh, I can only curse people, and that therefore I don't hex because I don't want to hurt other people. Go for a corporation, go for its stocks, go for its income, go for its bottom line. Those are totally valid targets. So I don't want to get into the ethics of hexing, because that's something you have to decide on your own. You have to decide on your own whether or not you're comfortable with it. I think people get to be a bit judgmental on either side, whether you hex or whether you don't hex. They get it judgmental towards the other side, and I don't think that that's helpful. So what I would encourage you to do is sit with yourself, do some self-exploration, and look into yourself and decide, is this something that I want to do? Is this something I feel capable of doing? Is this something that I actually need to do? Or are there other ways that I can achieve the same goal without going to a hex? Because again, you want to have a big magical toolbox with all sorts of spells and magic materia and rituals and spirits and deities and all sorts of helpers in that toolbox, so you can choose the right tool for the right job. Hexing is just a tool. It doesn't have to be the tool that you use for everything or for even certain things. And you may not ever do it at all, and that's okay. So I hope that this kind of gives you some food for thought. Tell me in the comments, do you hex? Do you not hex? Have you ever done a hex? What are your questions if you're considering, if you've never done a hex and you're considering doing one? Let's have that conversation in the comments. Otherwise, I'd like to say thank you to my Patreons. I just started Patreon. There will be a link in the bio, or link in the description there where you can join me, and that's how I'm able to do these videos and do other witchy work outside of my books, is by having a Patreon, having a Substack, all of that. So I hope you will join me there. Otherwise, stay safe and remember that your magic is personal, it's political, and it's powerful.